First name is Gypsy, Gypsy. Montgomery is middle, Montgomery. Townsend, Townsend. I was born in Greenville, Tennessee, at 321 Floral Street, right below George Clem School. I was raised by my mother in a matriarchal environment. My mother was Mrs. Towering Strength, I might say. My mother was Munsella Montgomery. She was the mother of 5 children. My mother came here from Pikeville, Tennessee in the about 1933. We came to this area. She had a brother that came here to go to school. And after he was here for a few years, he sent for her. So that's how we ended up in this area from down in the Pikeville, Tennessee, Chattanooga, down that way. That's where our history here in Greenville started. I was born here in 1946. My father's name was Charles Stokely. Yes, he wasn't really a part of my life. That's just, but I just know that's who I am. He's a Stokely. Well, I started school in 1952 at the George Clem School. Miss Grace Bradley was my first grade teacher. Like, she was just about everybody that I know, their first grade teacher. Well, I enjoyed school. I didn't do as good of a job as I could have because I like to play and stuff. So yes, but I learned a lot. Miss Grace was as a first grade teacher, and she was very creative, and so she kept us busy with, as Treva was saying, the rhythm band and and those type of things. So we had a lot of activities. I was what they call back in the day, they say a tomboy, so I was always outdoors playing, softball or marbles or horseshoes or whatever the game was going, that's what I would be doing. So that's how I spent my childhood years, more outside than in. And to this day, I still like outdoors, yeah. Well, now on the inside, the part that I did like was the library and books, and that was to this day I still do. That was the most important thing to me about my school years is my love of books and knowledge and wisdom, and that's where it came from. And like I said, one of my favorite places today, because of that, is still the library. One of my favorite books. I used to like to read biographies, like about one I remember, and I don't know why it's coming to my head, but it was Clara Barton, nurse and things like that. But biographies, I actually got a lot of inspiration in my childhood from books that I read, from people who overcame adversities. Well, I didn't know it was adversity that I was dealing with at the time, but their stories and how they overcame and got to wherever they were trying to be. So I did get a lot of motivation from the books. I still do. The books. So this year I said I was going to read a book a month. Well, I have read about 5 or 6, but the one that had the greatest impact on me this year was the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. Yeah, it was like reading 5 books. It was so thick, but it was really an interesting story about his life, the freedom fight. Because in my heart, that's what I think I am, a freedom fight. I try to, help where I can, uplift where I see things that are broken down. I just returned back to Greenville, Tennessee after almost 30 years in the D.C. area. I came home in 2015 after almost 30 years working as a federal contractor in the federal government. So that was an interesting very interesting experience, because I've been in just about in and out of all of the executive offices up there, you know, by the contracting that I did, which I learned a lot. Back to Nelson Mandela, I met him. He came to D.C., he came to the Capitol after he got released from prison after 27 years. And I had a picture with him, which I don't know where it is. I got to find my picture, but yeah, I did. How did I end up in D.C.? I left here in the 80s. Actually went up there. My ex-husband was there, and I was just, you know, just ready to leave, and that was a place I knew I could go. So. My first husband is John Arnett. John and I met at Jones Memorial AME Zion Church at about 5 years old. You know, so I knew him all my life. You know, so that's how that he used to say when we were little kids. He used to say that I was going to be his wife, but I was like, yeah, right. But I did end up marrying him. We have a son together. But the marriage didn't last. I'm kind of not the marrying kind. That's why I'm still single at 73. My son's named John. I have 2 sons and a daughter. Yeah. Karen Renee is my first, and then John Preston, and then Marquise Vaughn. They're all my age now. So. 2 of them are here. My oldest daughter and my oldest son, they're here in Greenville. My other son, he's in Kentucky. When I got out of George Clem, I went to Morristown College for a year. And then I left there and went to Rochester, New York, where my sister was. I had 3 older siblings who lived away from here, and so that's where I went. I stayed up in Rochester, I guess, for a couple of years. Look, my name is Gypsy, and I've lived the life of one. I've been so many places, but now, you know, like I'm back home and came back home in 2015, mainly because in 2012, I got sick. I had a surgery and stuff that I had to get out of the workforce. And then that's when I decided that I'd come home. I didn't really feel like going back to work, but, you know, I was in my mid-60s anyway. So you can't stay in the D.C. area without a job, so I'm home. First of all, I'm living on the same street 30 years later that I grew up on. I grew up on Wesley Avenue, and I'm still there. So I can see, you know, the changes that have taken place. One of the major ones I see, the demographics are changing. When I grew up, there were almost no whites on Wesley Avenue. There were a couple down on the other end, but, you know, wasn't no trouble or anything, but there was no interaction. Now if you walk down Wesley Street, you can't tell, you know. And I guess that's been, and the mixed couples and children and marriages and things like that, that is just something that quite astounding, because it's just not something I ever thought that I would see. And now it's just like commonplace, you know. I haven't seen any, you know, any negative issues at the moment, but I do see it changing, you know, very rapidly. When we were children, you saw kids out playing. You hardly see that now. You know, like just yesterday, I was visiting with a friend of mine. She had a little girl. She was about 6, I guess. So when she going into the house, she said, you have to come into the house. You can't leave your children outside to play like we did. We were free. We just run up and down the street, playing, doing whatever we wanted to do. You can't do that now. People are different. See, I graduated, I was next to the last class to graduate from George Clem. So as far as segregation is concerned, I don't remember, I remember the big top. I remember the white patrons only signs and things like that. But on a personal note, none of that touched me. You know, I was listening to one of my friends she was speaking, and she was talking about how when the schools integrated, how they threw rocks at her and spit and stuff like that. I didn't experience any of that, you know, not because I didn't go there, so I didn't know, but my children did. And so they just had a whole different world than what we came up in, you know. I went to Marshtown College in '64. I went to there for 1 year, and then I went in '65. And I was out there for several years, and then I came back home. Like I said, I've been a lot of places. Just the things that I learned, you know, and as an administrative support person, you go into these government offices, and the forms and things you fill out are, you know, they're the same, but it's just a lot. You meet a lot people from all over the world. The first job that I went to was at the United States Capitol, and the reason I was there, Leroy's gone, but that's how I got into the federal government, the door of the federal government. My homeboy, he was the house restaurant manager, and I was working for a food service company at the Capitol. And it's quite fun to be, you know, in that atmosphere with the congressman, people, you know, tourists coming from all over the world. It was just very exciting, not something that was planned or that I thought I would do. But, you know, I think, and it's like I got to the executive level of government with high school diploma, a high school diploma, and a couple of years of college. I got to work in the highest office in the land, so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, it is. I lived in Maryland, but I would go into D.C. to work. Mm-hmm. D.C. has changed a lot, just like, you know, just about everywhere else. You know, they used to call it the chocolate city. You can't call it that anymore. It's not. Like the inner city and stuff like that. I think it was like at one time it was like 85% blacks own property and houses and all that. That's a thing of the past. That's a thing of the past. They've torn down all the old structures and built new ones, and the people that were living there can't live there no more. And what that really did was create a cult of homelessness. Now people's but I think that's in all of the major cities. That's just a time that we're living in now. That's what's happening. Well, you know, I had my 70th birthday a couple of years back, and everybody got up and talked about how mean I used to be. I didn't understand. I'm like, but then after I thought about it, I was like, I was fighting somebody all the time. One of my classmates, Linda, she said the only fight she ever had, I started it. But I was pretty live. But it was a fun time for me. I love these mountains. I don't know, they're in my soul or something, and I didn't even really realize that until I got back after all those years. And I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to get away from here, to live another life, to live a different kind of life, to have the experiences that I did. And, and on coming back home, I see a lot of things that haven't changed. I see a lot of stagnation, and I have a heart to try to help that some kind of way if I can with the experiences that I've had. Well, mostly what I do now is, because I'm not working, is it's ministry in the nursing homes or going to help people who need help or taking them here or there. You know, that's the ministry that God has me doing right now, and it gratifies me greatly, although I need to find something to make some money. Yeah, I got back involved with church, and that has given me, I'm a member of Jones Memorial AME Zion Church. We just celebrated 150 years. And that church has been a major, major, major part of my life, all of it that I can remember, even until now. So that's where a lot of my time and energy is spent right now. Yeah. Greenville's good, you know. We had the swimming pool right there across from the school where the playground was, and our community center, you might say, was outside George Clare. Now, we were coming up every day. That's where everybody was. It was almost like it had walls or something. We couldn't get inside the school, but people would bring their children. The children would be on the playground playing, or we'd be playing softball, because up on the grounds now where it's grass, it used to be just dirt. And that's where we played softball. That was one of my favorites. That's right. Reverend Ryland Hamilton, he used to come. We had a softball team, and he would come, and 2 or 3 times a week, you know, we'd go out into all of the outlying areas. It's Camp Creek, Cedar Creek, Otway, you name it. And we played softball with whites and stuff like that. So we didn't ever have any kind of trouble like that, you know. Yeah, it was. It was. Everybody was there. Like I said, kids too. And I think about that now when I don't see any kids and things out playing, you know. But that's where everybody was. The parents would be there, but you could watch your children. You could be there with them while they were playing. Everybody doing their own thing, you know. But it was just every day. Nobody said, let's meet here. It just became a thing that we did. And I can't talk about my young life without talking about a game that we all used to play, and that is our Bid Whiz card game. That was very, very, very much a part of our lives, especially in the wintertime when you couldn't play ball, go to the gym. We were always at somebody's house, taking turns at somebody's house playing cards. And I still love playing Bid Whiz today. It was a carefree, you know, childhood. And I look at the children today, and I don't see that.